So I just wanted to start with just finding out about your first experience with yoga, like when you started practicing and how you came across the
It's like
practice.
over 30 years, over 30 years ago. I've been teaching for 30 years.
Okay.
So I started because I became sick physically. I had diverticulitis, a spastic colon, and I had
Mm,
tumors in my gut. And the medical profession said I would have to have an intestinal bypass, which is a colostomy bag basically. And I thought, well, there's no way I'm going to have that.
wow.
Um, yeah, so I heard, I didn't know what to do, but being a scientist, I'm very Newtonian brained. So I thought, well, I don't know what else to do, but I'm in so much pain. There must be another way. And I heard about some yogis who were from Czechoslovakia,
Okay.
and they trained in Tibet, and they did a combination of Tibetan yoga and this thing called Tibetan Rebirthing, which is a therapy which I've been doing now for years for people all over the world. And I tried this, and basically, to cut a long story short, I got better, so much better there. And when the men in white coats gave me the all clear, not knowing why I was better, they had no understanding because it was outside of the auspices of their Newtonian brains.
Mm.
I realized that clearly there was something else working that keeps and sustains us. So I investigated it, and I went into yoga. I trained, became a yoga teacher, but I trained and looked at everything that was outside of yoga, not just yoga. And I think that's a very important thing for yoga teachers to come outside of asanas, pranayama, dhyana, and start looking. There's a whole world that hasn't or is about to be discovered. There are certain people in the world of science and people like Ibn Alexander and Robert Laszlo and all of that, who are eminent in the world of science and are turning the paradigms upside down. And I think yoga is a defined area that talks about that which is indefined. So we're talking from the rational about that which is irrational. And yes, we work through rational postures, rational breath controls, rational meditations, but we bring in what we call the visible, that which cannot be defined by a rational mind. And that's why people feel so incredible. I mean, you can feel incredible by hitting your head on the wall, and when you stop, you feel great. You can beat yourself up with yoga. A lot of people do it some sort of form of masochism,
Uh-huh.
but done properly, it'll take you into a transcendence and a form of personal evolution, and that's what it did for me.
Mm.
So I went through um, formal yoga, different schools of yoga,
Was it
uh,
Ashtanga? Was that
Ashtanga,
the
yeah,
main?
and yeah, that was I was teaching the all the series.
Okay.
Became very well known for it in London,
And did you train
and
in India? Did you go?
yeah, I trained. Originally, I trained India, London, wherever I could. I mean, there was different
Yeah.
places I went to, but I was invited by Patabi Joyce to Mysore. He personally invited me over the telephone, which was an
Wow.
amazing. Yeah, he just said, "Come." I mean, his disciple said he's going to call you, and we'll
Wow.
put him on the phone. And so I packed my bags, and I was about to leave, and then my father said that he'd heard of this amazing woman. He never met her, but a woman who knew her kept recommending her, called Clara Buck, who was
Okay.
very close to she was best friends with Scaravelli, Vanta
Okay.
Scaravelli,
Yeah.
and Iyengar. And he wanted me to see her, and I said no. I packed my bags and went to Mysore. And my father was very stubborn, so anyway, I went to see this woman. And literally, she changed my entire life.
Wow.
And
Was your
she
father
changed my
doing
life
yoga as
because,
well? Or
sorry.
was your father involved with yoga at all? Or?
No, no, no. My father was a singer. He was
Yeah.
a singer and an artist, a painter. He was a like me. I suppose I've learned to kind of pay big attention to small things and small attention to big things. The big attention was that I've been invited by Patabi Joyce. The small thing was that I got an invitation from this woman who nobody had ever heard of. I'd never heard of her anyway. But apparently, she was enormous in the world of yoga. I went to see her, and the first thing she did was offer me a drink. And I said, I don't do that. I don't. She said, why? I said, I'm a yogi. She said, but you're Russian. I said, it doesn't mean I have to drink. So she said, would you have me drink alone? So she poured some palinka. So I said, no, okay. I knew it was a challenge, so I took some, and then I was totally anesthetized. Okay. And then she told me, she says, you didn't come here to be a yogi. You came here to be a full human being. Don't miss out on your life because you're a scaredy cat.
Wow.
So I thought, well, she's clinically insane. She needs to be locked away. Or she's a genius.
Okay.
And then she asked me to show me what I could do. Okay. And I can do, maybe I can do a handful of postures that maybe a handful of people can do in the world. And at that time I thought I was really clever, but, really amazing. But I was such a knob, in those days. It really was. It was just all ego,
Okay.
And that's what happens with yoga teachers. We get caught by our own egos. And it's something to really watch for.
Well, yoga teachers and so many people.
so many people. That's what rules our world right now is ego. That's what wars are about. So so after I finished, she didn't say anything, and I thought she'd be utterly impressed. Okay. And she showed me, her hand. She said, "What do you think of my hand?" And I was insulted. I thought she was, as I told you, I thought she was clinically insane. I said, I think, I don't think anything of your bloody hand. And she said, well, each cell in my hand, darling, is made of love. Unless you love this body, it'll kick you out.
Oh my God.
And I felt that there was something here way more attractive and deeper than anything I've met in the world of Ashtanga. So I never went to Mysore. I stayed.
Right.
In fact, I stayed till the end of her life.
Was she from the Ashtanga world?
No, she was from Iyengar. Okay. She at the age, and she lived till the age of 93. She went backpacking when she was 90 in South America. She was an amazing woman.
Wow.
And she was totally in love with herself, her body, life. Everybody fell in love with Clara. And she's influenced people like Angela Farmer, Shandor Ramit, Jiv, who is the head of the Yoga Teacher Association in Israel, was a student just like I was. Okay. And she only, like the last tour she did of the world of different shalas, they wanted to demonstrate certain positions in Trikonasana that she kind of invented or made famous to her. And then she turned down the tour at the last moment. And she said, I'm not going to do it, they're all idiots. I said, what do you mean they're idiots? They're not idiots. She says, they only want that asana. She said, I do it for one thing and one thing alone. I said, what? She said, oh, love. Wow. And finally, they agreed to it. And then all these Ashtangas were standing there flexing their muscles, waiting for her orders. She said, sit down, you have something to learn. Okay. And she lectured them about love. That the love that we give ourselves and the level of kindness and adventure all mixed together to our love, that it's a very subtle thing, it's something you cannot see. That the level of love that we give ourselves is the level of how the body is going to respond to you, otherwise it's going to kick you out. She said it's okay talking in your 30s and 40s and 50s, but when you start hitting your 60s and 70s, then you see what you've laid up in your body. And if it's cruelty, it'll bite you back. The body starts to break down. It runs away from you.
Wow.
So it's really a lesson. And that's what I teach now. I teach people to have fun, be hilarious, but to be loving more than anything. The body, when it wants to move, will move because of a thing called passion. Passion is love in action. Bliss is love with no action. So if the body needs to rest, one of the zeitgeists of modern athletics now, and where most golds are taken in the Olympics, is when people come to train. They come to train, and what they notice now is, when I get to my sport, do I want to do it? How does my body responding? There's a protoplasmic response. If the protoplasm, the body, doesn't want to do it, If you then do it because of your ego discipline, the body has a memory. It has a good memory and a bad memory. If it has enough bad memories, finally it starts breaking down.
Wow.
So the body is
So
the
it's like
body
you're
is
whipping
like,
it, and it finally
yes. It's like if you look
takes too
after a
much
dog.
whipping.
That's exactly right. Yeah. And if you look after a dog, it'll bring you the lead.
Yeah.
If you force it, it'll growl at you every time you try to take it for a walk.
Yeah.
So it's very difficult for yogis when they're not feeling good to walk away from their practice and go, well, I'll only do a little bit, just a tiny bit, because my body's not feeling good today. Well, if you do that, you'll find what will happen later on that day. The body it starts to go into bliss because you actually loved it. And then what happens is great power comes. You start to feel magnanimous, you feel connected, and guess what? We have a spiritual experience. Where do you think spirituality comes from? It's naivety to think that it comes from bashing yourself up all the time.
And a lot of yoga classes are kind of doing that, aren't they? Especially
Right.
Ashtanga, I find.
Oh,
Even though I do
really?
Ashtanga.
I know. And that's why I'm saying it, because I want the Ashtangis to maybe hear this.
Yeah.
With love. It's sent out to them in love.
Yeah.
But the only thing that stands between you and enlightenment in every age and follows us from every lifetime is our ego. It follows us from one lifetime to the next. And yeah, so that's it.
And I actually had an experience on the weekend. I went to a studio that I haven't been for ages, an Ashtanga studio, quite hardcore, only Ashtanga studio, as as many of them are. And I wanted to join this class, which was a 2-hour lead class, and they wouldn't let me because, because the previous teacher was a different woman who I used to go to about a year ago. And this guy was, I think, the owner of the studio, and she's like, he's not going to let you, you already have to go to a few other, like, Mysore practices before he'll let you into the lead class, and blah, blah, blah. And I was like, why? I came just for this class. I want to do 2 hours. And she's like, oh, we'll try, go and speak to him. And so I went. I'm like, okay, please, can I do your class? I came all the way across the city. He's like, no. No, I have to. He's like, I don't know you. I'm like, but you'll get to know me if I join your class.
Wow.
So I wasn't allowed. So I had to do the beginner's class.
That's insane.
Yeah.
And the thing is, who's to say, everybody is a potential Gandhi. Everyone's a potential Buddha. You're going to take the Buddha away from your class. You're going to, the potentiality of everyone has that potential. We're all one soul. For me, yoga, look, let me tell you now, I work in war zones. I work in war zones in Palestine, between Palestine and Israel. I walk in war zones in the inner city. We are in a very, very dangerous time in human history. Yoga teachers have got to get off their egocentric butts and start being inclusive and kind and loving. If we're not, we're no better than politicians.
Yeah.
We're no better than the ridiculous societies and strategies we've used, which are ego-based elitism.
To exclude people.
Exactly. We have to include people. We create communities. If we're not creating communities through yoga, we're wasting our time. Okay. And the people who are so arrogantly pushing people away from their classes, they've got to live with that karma, by the way. This message is going out to those guys. If you're pushing people away from your classes, you've got to live with this through every lifetime. Yeah. How dare you? How dare you?
I was pretty angry. I was like, oh, am I just not very chilled out because I'm feeling very angry now?
No, really. Your anger is righteous. Yeah. It's a righteous anger. Absolutely. And we have to support communities, because what are we going to do? Leave this world up to politicians? Look how they fucked it up so far.
Absolutely. Yeah. That's not going to get us anywhere.
No.
So did Clara, is how she taught you? Was it kind of sometimes asanas and sometimes just talks about love? How was her style?
Yeah, it was like, for instance, she would start with, of course she would work with asanas,
Mm.
pranayama, dhyana. She would work with all of that.
Yeah.
But in all of it, the case was, where is your somatic feeling? Where is your joy? Where is your love? Oh, that's where it is. Let's follow it. It's like hunting an elusive animal.
Okay, within the body.
It's,
So
yes, within the body, mind, breath system.
yeah.
So you are hunting something down, and if you feel it, that's where you go. So it's
Mm.
not a case of keeping rigidly to some pattern. She threw that out a long time ago.
As in a sequence of postures,
No, she didn't
or
do
a
that. She
way
said,
of doing each posture.
yes. She said your body will forget certain things because it doesn't like them. It remembers certain things because it loves them. So she says, go through the sequence which is in your head and find what is true for your body. So I said, well, I don't know what that means. So she says, just don't think it, feel it. There's two worlds, thinking and feeling. Like, for instance, when I went to teach, first time I went to teach teachers, a bunch of really, quite long, they were senior teachers, yoga beats, and I was nervous. I was really shaking. And she said, "What's wrong, baby?" She'd always call me baby. I said, "I'm nervous." She says, "Why?" I said, "Well, they've never worked with yoga with movement and music before, and it's kind of crazy what I do."
Yeah.
She said, "Dare to be who you are. Dare to be who you are," and that's, I think, it was such a deep philosophy. It means, on one level, yes, dare to be who you are, but who are you? Who are we really? And when we start discovering that, we make the same journey that Salvador Dali made, Miles Davis, all the greats who discover things, and everybody said, "Oh, you're nuts." Ernest Hemingway. I mean, all these people were massive influence on human society.
Just
But
walking
who
a
are?
path.
Yeah. I mean, I'm not interested in me. I'm really not interested in David Sye. I'm interested in yoga teachers and other people following their madness, following their uniqueness. That's interesting for me. I'm already doing that. I'm interested in other people doing that because I can see how wonderful my life has become because of that.
Wow. And I mean, that's also precisely why I'm interested in interviewing you, because I can really see clearly that you're a person who's not following any patterns or rules or systems, and making it up for yourself and just bringing out, being who you truly are, daring to be who you truly are, which I
And then we
think.
validate that for everyone else. We validate it for everyone else
You allow
because
them to be.
the bigger picture takes us away from robot society, which
Yeah.
says you need this and you need that and you need that. You don't need anything, quite honestly. What you'll find is that one act of kindness to yourself, you'll find that the universe itself will bring money, will bring strategies that will come naturally without you having to bust your brains over it and think, how the hell do I market
To
this? I mean,
struggle.
yeah, I mean, I turned
Yeah.
down, the Manchester Yoga Show last year because, I wanted to talk about the Palestinian-Israeli conflict, and they wouldn't allow me like 10 minutes just to do a Q&A
At the
because
Manchester
they
Yoga
had
Show.
a, yeah, because they had a Lycra exhibition. It was something called Lemon Lulu or something. Yeah. And I
Wow.
said, are you fucking joking? Are you kidding me? You like, I don't want to sound pumped up, but I mean, I think that what yoga's doing in the Middle East is actually a bit more worthy than Lycra
Yeah,
products. And they said,
sure.
no, we can't do it. I said, well, I'm not turning up.
Yeah.
And all my classes were sold out. And they said, well, you can't do that. I said, watch me. And I did it. And why I'm saying that is nothing against those
No,
guys.
you have to
Nothing.
stay true to yourself.
You've got to have the courage to go, actually, you know what? I feel this. Because very soon you'll be at a point in your life where you go, I spent 20, 30 years following someone else, running my yoga business along the lines of fear and competition
Yeah.
and my ego. And what have I got at the end of that? You know, as a senior person, as an older person, I would say to everybody right now, you want to be like Clara. You want to be like her, where she was one of the most loved women around, one of the most loved yogis, because she spent her life spreading love. You know, at the end of it, once you're fed, you don't need that much. You know, I don't need that much. I just travel, and people pay me, and they pay me for what I love.
Yeah. It's not that complicated.
And we have to be the anarchists, honey. The yogis are the original anarchists.
Yeah.
We're teaching insurrection. I'm sorry, but we really are. At its right way.
Should be. Should be, yeah. Actually,
so was Christ, so was Buddha, so was, they were all teaching insurrection.
Yeah. One of the things, I had this realization a few years ago about the Beatles, actually. I grew up listening to the Beatles, like my parents had all their records. And I just had this sudden revelation that why they're so massive is like all they're talking about is love almost all the time.
Right.
All the time, that's all they're saying. And it's like, all you need is love, but it's true. And not many people actually make a whole career out of that. And that's, it felt to me, it's like, okay, that's why they're huge. Like, they're also good, but underlying is that message.
That's true. And there are two worlds. And right now the world is at war with two different vibrations. One is fear. Fear is the best fucking currency on the planet. You can control thousands of people, millions of people into one position with fear. A few strategies on TV, a few bogus reports, and you've got everybody.
Yeah.
And you can do, the fear of God because you don't know the love of God.
And repeat it every night on the news.
Yeah, repeat it all the time. We keep talking about Al Qaeda, and that every Arab's a terrorist and all that shit. It's completely ridiculous. So in the end, we have a world that's run on fear, and yogis are not about that. I mean, if something is real, I'll give you an example right now. I was teaching in the West Bank in a place called Jenin, one of the hottest spots on the West Bank, and they raised £1,000 for me to go in. The first time I'd always financed my own trips into the West Bank, and I've been doing that since 2004 by teaching in Israel, and I brought Israelis and Palestinians together in 2006, and this was and I'd always financed it by working in Israel, and for the first time ever they raised the Freedom Theatre in Jenin raised £1,000 for me to go in. And 2 days before that, after they said they're paying me £1,000 through my secretary, she said, well, you've got to commit to these dates. And I said, I can't do that. So she said, why? I said, I got a really bad feeling. She said, well, don't be ridiculous. She said, you've got to commit. I said, listen, don't push me. I've got a feeling of dread.
Wow.
I can't. Yeah. And 2 days later, Juliana Mayer, who ran the Freedom Theatre, who's my friend, was shot dead in front of his son outside the Freedom Theatre. Now, the whole of this, he was half Israeli, half Palestinian, and a wonderful, wonderful, a hero of mine. He was a wonderful man, a great soul. He didn't really care, but I got the warning. Now, why am I telling you this? It's because when you focus in the irrational, not the rational, in the irrational, on love, love itself will tell you where to be and where not to be, due to where your karma is. My karma was not to be there, and you get a very deep feeling. It has nothing to do with a head trip. It's a body sensation.
Yeah.
Okay. So okay.
And not many people are that in tune to their bodily sensations, obviously.
And I think that yoga should tune us into that.
Yeah.
It should tune us into that place, so we know where to go for our survival.
Yeah.
We'll know how to run our classes for money. We'll know what to do. And the bigger picture looks after us. You'll find that, but nobody trusts love. And yes, all you need is love. Really? Well, okay. If you believe that, then trust it. Follow it, because its ways are hidden.
Most people are too afraid to do that. I mean, myself included. I'm always trying, but I know I've got a long way to go.
We're all students of it, but that's why I'm talking about it now. We're talking about it now, so it's the one thing that turns the mundane into the miraculous. and then the miraculous becomes continuous.
Yeah, for tuning in every day.
Yeah, tune in every day. That's what the practice is meant to do.
Yeah.
It's actually meant to do that. You know, if you're not a more loving, kind person because of the practice, you're doing the wrong practice. It isn't yoga. That's not yoga for me.
Yeah.
So my definition for yoga is to be loving to be loving and kind to yourself all of the time, no matter what.
Yeah.
Be loving to yourself all the time, no matter what.
And then that naturally spreads out.
Yeah, I mean, you know, your ability to have a cup of tea with someone without talking about fucking yoga is the act of yoga. Why do you have to talk about yoga all the time to some ordinary people who's never done it? Just sit there and be kind, be happy. You know, a lot of people I work with, they've never done yoga, they don't know what the hell it is. But you sit there and they enjoy your company and they go, wow, that's really, you know, and then it starts to happen. You don't need these NLP strategies, for Christ's sake. No. You know, trying to maneuver people. That's just ego. The whole NLP thing is just ego. It's like, how do I maneuver another person into my way of thinking? Well, if you need that, then what you're thinking about it is fucked up. Sorry. It's fucked up. It's nothing to do with the bigger picture. It's to do with your strategies.
Yeah, yeah. Oh, very interesting. I wanted to find out. So how did the actual beats start coming? Like, was that from after your learning with Clara, or
no? It was kind of before. Kind of before it happened. I was in Yugoslavia, and I was a radio journalist. I've been teaching yoga, you know, prior to that, obviously, but you know, you started live teaching yoga 30 years ago. And then I found myself running a radio station in the Balkans. We got bombed out.
Wow.
I got caught between a rock and a hard place. I had a Serbian girlfriend. And then all the embassies shut. Everybody ran away.
Did you go there before the war? Or?
Yeah, before.
Oh, right. And then it happened.
Yeah. When 1990, it was just beginning, really, but it wasn't too bad.
And you didn't leave. That's pretty amazing.
Yeah, I fell in love with the Serbian people. I really felt. As a yogi, I always felt where I am is the place I need to be.
Wow,
so
that's pretty amazing. And it's a war zone.
It was. I thought it was pretty stupid at the time, but anyway, looking back, maybe it was. Kind of strange, but anyway, I ended up between a rock and a hard place.
Okay.
And in war, people take as much booze and as many drugs as they can, just because they don't know how long they have. You know, when a bullet like slams past your face into the wall, life starts having a different meaning. So my drug is yoga. So I used to practice and I used to turn up the boogie box. I used to turn up the music really, really loud, just to drown out the sound of the war. And anyway, the soldiers started to join me. They, one time they stood around with Kalashnikovs going, "What is this? What is this? What do you do? What do you do?" And I said, "This is yoga, Okay, Urdu, we tried. Okay, we tried. So I said, okay. So they really loved it. And
did you have some Balkan beats going?
Yeah, well, I didn't have Balkan beats. Now, in those days, Balkan beats were just like, their normal music.
Yeah.
I love Balkan beats. They're great.
Yeah.
But I just used to use like James Brown and all sorts of funk, just turn up really loud.
Okay.
And Ice-T, Body Count and stuff like that, which was a national anthem.
Yeah.
So they loved it, and that became, and it started to take on its own way. And anyway, I made a deal with the sky. I did a puja, just saying, if you get me out, that's what I'm going to do. And I got out, and by a miraculous set of circumstances, I got out of the Balkans, found myself in England, and I started teaching in a dance studio at Finsbury Park, which is a bowling alley, actually, and lots of dancers go there. And none of the yoga community would come to my classes.
That was my next question. How did they
Yeah.
react? Because obviously the kind of people I'm talking about that I went to on the weekend probably wouldn't approve.
No, not at all, not at all.
Imagine the hardcore Ashtangis.
No, they wouldn't approve at all. I was basically ostracized from the world of yoga. In fact, a body of yoga association came out and said, David Sye has destroyed 5,000 years of yoga tradition, and basically don't go to his classes. So there was like a fatwa put out on me. Yeah, no, seriously, it was a strange thing. So I didn't give a shit because all the yogis, all the dancers, and I was supported by osteopaths and physiotherapists who said that this movement thing that I was doing was one of the best things you can do for the body, and that holding your body in still positions for periods of time creates terrible stress within the body, mind, temple. So that took on a meaning of its own, and I felt that I was being supported, although it wasn't being supported by the people I thought should be supporting me. But anyway, that was my concept. Yeah.
And have they changed now? Those people, have that sort of yoga fraternity, come around to what you're doing?
Yeah. About I think it was 4 years ago, I was invited to open Congress at the British Wheel of Yoga at Warwick University.
Okay.
I mean, they made me a yoga elder at some point, which was very strange. It was kind of weird, it's like one of the highest things you can,
Wow.
Some huge, ridiculous accolade. I don't know what the hell it means even today. But and then they asked me to open up a Congress at Warwick University. And I said to my secretary, they must have the wrong guy. And she says, no, they got the wrong, they really want you. Anyway, I went there and I stood there in front of 500 teachers or so and I said, hi, I'm David Sye. You sure you want me? You sure this is right? And they went, yeah. Well, I said, oh, okay. So I went into I started lecturing them on love. I did exactly what Clara would do because I felt that was right. Yeah. And then it was interesting, quite a few of them were crying because I asked them to do one thing. I said, okay, close your eyes and hold your breath. Don't breathe. And don't open your eyes and don't breathe. Now remember someone you loved very dearly who's died. Don't breathe. Keep remembering them. Don't breathe. Keep remembering them. Don't breathe. Now take a breath. See how fucking good that is? That one simple breath. That's all you need. What else do you fucking need? And we keep twisting ourselves into, Vishwamitrasana on one finger. And, you can make it as complex as you want. But honest to God, it's very, very simple. It's one breath. That's it. I mean, I know everybody knows that in theory. But just try it, So, I believe that we should do everything to become courageous and outrageous. I used tequila in my class to remove people's heads.
I was going to ask about that. How did that start?
I was in Colorado and they asked for, they wanted a really advanced class and they wanted 3 hours of advanced postures. Okay. I said, okay. If you can take 2 hours, I'll give you 3. Anyway, after an hour and a half, they were dead. So, I do this. If people want that, I'll do it. But it's done with love, done with lots of music and excitement, and So at least it's some sort of environment for the mind, body, spirit temple that enjoys it. It must be everything must be enjoyable. And after an hour and a half, I could see they'd gone. So we ended the class of Shavasana, and then they disappeared. So I said to the guy, where the hell have they gone? He said, they've gone to the bar. You want to come? I said, sure. So we went to the bar, and as I walked in, they're kind of putting the drinks behind them. And I said, what's that you're hiding? And they went, a tequila.
We're pretending we don't drink because we're yogis.
That's right. They're hiding the shots. The beer is in front of them, and they're hiding the shots. So I said, well, set one up for me, man. So they said, what do you mean? You're gonna have a tequila? I said, sure, why not? I said, look, Clara always taught that there's nothing toxic in life except unconsciousness. When you do everything with consciousness, what's to be frightened of life? You know, when you're gonna die, you're gonna die. You can't die 1 second before. So quit worrying about it, you know.
Yeah.
So we set up these shots, and I said, okay, so let's drink to the grandest, greatest vision of ourselves. Let's celebrate our lives. Come on, man. Let's do it. So we did that. And as I'm drinking this shot, I get a download from the universe, what I call a download. And the inspiration works like this. And what I got was do tequila yoga.
Wow.
So that just came in my head, okay? Yeah. And I immediately rejected it because, you know, it's like ridiculous.
They're going to ostracize me even more.
So I make myself say it. So I said, let's do tequila yoga. So they said, what is that? I said, I got no fucking idea. I have no idea. I don't know what it is. So we set up 30 shots in the studio, 30 slices of lime, 30 little piles of salt. And we slammed the shots with a quick namaste.
Is it before the class or after? Or
before the class?
Before
the class.
Okay, wow.
It was the craziest, wildest class I've ever given in my life. It was so crazy, they didn't want to stop. It was so hilarious, people were laughing, you know, and it was loose. And I realized what had happened.
Yeah.
They'd lost heads. Now, I'm a Sufi, and one of the things you do is to remove the head. The head is the only thing that stands in the way of your body.
Yeah.
It tries to control the body. So once you can behead yourself, you know, you start to enjoy yourself. That's why people get stoned. That's why people drink.
For sure.
So you're never going to stop people doing that, because that's the way that people get rid of their heads. And that's the point.
Yeah.
So, you know, so I thought, okay, you know what? I'm going to try this. So I've been doing this all around the world, and we sell out.
So you don't get too many yogis going, oh, I don't drink, I'm not going to do that tequila thing. I'll come, but I won't do that.
You know, it's a really interesting question, because we've had these people like at yoga shows who really don't drink. They're completely teetotal, austere show.
Yeah, fasting and vegan.
Creeping in at the back of the room going, hi, can we join? Yeah, come in. So they come in, and I don't want to look everybody. I don't want to malign anybody. That's not my point. What I'm saying is everybody is a different stage of their evolution. That everyone has a chance. I don't want to define someone just because they don't do something. That's not the way. The way is to say we're all growing, we're all children, and to the degree that we can be courageous. Well, actually, I've got a problem with courage and bravery. I think one needs to be innocent, because innocence has no memory of fear. So it is fearless.
Yeah, because children are fearless just naturally. They don't need to be courageous. They just are.
That's right. They
do their thing, and they don't care.
That's it. And when you find the real gurus, they're very happy people. They're very childish. That's one of the characteristics of evolution, is childishness. When you find someone who's very serious, very rule-bound, you know, that guy who rejected you from the class, they've got a long way to go. I'm sorry, but that's the fact. Because their characteristic is ego. That was an ego move. It had nothing to do with anything else.
I wasn't up to the level for whatever reason. Because he didn't know me.
You didn't fit in the statistical box in his head, you know. So that's his that's his issue. Actually, that's his psychological issue.
Yeah.
So
if anyone wants to invite you out to do a Yoga Beats gig somewhere out in the world, they're hearing this, and just look for you, I guess.
They just write to me.
Yeah.
Sure. All right, darling.
All right, thanks so much. And I'll be in touch soon.
Lots of love.
Yeah, you too.